information and thoughts. So this kind of cyclical interrelated problems అది మనం అర్థం చేసుకోవడం లేదు, అంతర్జాతీయ స్థాయిలో కూడా దాని గురించి అంత డీప్ చర్చ లేదు. అందుకే ఈరోజు కాన్ఫరెన్స్ పెట్టుకున్నది కూడా స్థానిక పరిస్థితుల నుంచి అంతర్జాతీయ పరిస్థితుల వరకు ఎట్లాంటి అంశాలు ముడిపడి ఉన్నాయి, దాంట్లో మనము లైఫ్ సైన్సెస్ కానీ, బయాలజీ కానీ, జువాలజీ కానీ, బాటనీ కానీ, ఈ అన్ని సబ్జెక్టులు ఎట్లా దాంతో ముడిపడి ఉన్నాయి అనేది మనం కొద్దిగా లోతుల్లోకి వెళ్ళి అర్థం చేసుకోవడానికి కాన్ఫరెన్స్ ఏర్పాటు చేయడం జరిగింది. మీకు చాలా విషయాలు తెలుసు. అయితే ఈ సబ్జెక్ట్ సంబంధించి మనం టెక్నాలజీ ఇష్యూస్ ఉన్నాయి, సైన్స్ ఇష్యూస్ ఉన్నాయి, ఎన్వైరన్మెంటల్ ఇష్యూస్ ఉన్నాయి, సోషల్ ఇష్యూస్ ఉన్నాయి, ఎకనామిక్ ఇష్యూస్ ఉన్నాయి. సో ఇవన్నీ ఇంటర్ రిలేటెడ్ ఇష్యూస్ సైన్స్ టీచర్లు కూడా నేర్చుకోవాల్సిన పరిస్థితి ఏర్పడింది. ఎందుకంటే ఈ మేనేజ్మెంట్, బయోడైవర్సిటీ మేనేజ్మెంట్ ఈజ్ ఇంక్రీజింగ్లీ బికమింగ్ ఏ business activity at the international level. In fact, lot of the negotiations they are focused only on access and benefit sharing. So basically trying to look at the economics of it, monetization. అంటే ఒక ప్రకృతి వనరును మనము క్యాష్ రూపంలో, ఒక డబ్బు రూపంలో చూసే పరిస్థితి, దుస్థితి వచ్చింది. అది ఎట్లా మారుస్తాము? ఎందుకంటే అందులో ఇమిడి ఉన్న అంశాలు అనేకం ఉన్నాయి. ఆ అంశాలన్నింటినీ అందుకే మనం సైన్స్ టీచర్గా అర్థం చేసుకోవడానికి చూస్తున్నాం. నెక్స్ట్ వీక్ సో టైం తక్కువ ఉంది, ఎందుకంటే ఇంకా ఇద్దరు స్పీకర్లు ఉన్నారు. తర్వాత చాలా డీటెయిల్డ్ ప్రెజెంటేషన్స్ మన తులసిరావు గారు, డాక్టర్ 𝗕𝗏𝗂𝗏𝗧𝗏 గారు ఉన్నారు, తెలుసాము. So I want to give more time to them. So biodiversity definition కొద్దిగా 2022 you can imagine since 1995 there has been 92 rather there has been discussion, but I think they arrived at a understanding on what is biodiversity. So అందులో they talk of all kinds of life, not just human life, ఆల్ కైండ్స్. అంటే మన వైరస్ కావచ్చు, బ్యాక్టీరియా కావచ్చు, ఆల్ టైప్స్ ఆఫ్ లైఫ్తో పాటు చెట్లు, పుట్టలు అన్నీ మనం మాట్లాడుతున్నాం. బట్ వాట్ దే మిస్డ్ ఇన్ దట్ ఫ్రేమ్వర్క్ ఈజ్ ఎకోసిస్టమ్. బయోడైవర్సిటీ అనే పదం ఏదైతే ఉందో అదేదో ఒక్కొక్క లైఫ్ గురించి మాట్లాడి బాగుంది అనడం కాదు. వీ హ్యావ్ టు టాక్ అబౌట్ ఎకోసిస్టమ్. ఎకోసిస్టమ్ ఈజ్ వాట్ డిఫైన్స్ ద రిచ్నెస్ ఆఫ్ బయోడైవర్సిటీ. సో ప్రాబ్లమ్ ఈజ్ దిస్ ఈజ్ నాట్ దేర్ ఇన్ దట్ ఫ్రేమ్వర్క్ క్లియర్లీ ఆర్ అట్ ద ఫోర్ ఫ్రంట్. నెక్స్ట్ ప్లీజ్. సో ఇక్కడ వాట్ కైండ్ ఆఫ్ కాజెస్ విచ్ ఆర్ లీడింగ్ టు బయోడైవర్సిటీ లాస్. ఇండియాలో మనం మాట్లాడుకుంటే హ్యాబిటాట్ లాస్ గురించి ఎక్కడ మాట్లాడరు. మేము వందల ఎన్వైరన్మెంటల్ ఇంపాక్ట్ అసెస్మెంట్ చూసాం. అండ్ ఎన్వైరన్మెంటల్ ఇంపాక్ట్ అసెస్మెంట్లో ఒక పిచ్చుక కావచ్చు, ఒక తుమ్మెద కావచ్చు, ఒక జింక కావచ్చు, వీటి హ్యాబిటాట్ గురించి ఎక్కడ మాట్లాడరు. 10 జింకలు ఉన్నాయి, వాటికి ఏం కాదు. పిచ్చుకుంటే పిచ్చుకకే వాట్ ఈస్ ద హ్యాబిటాట్? దేర్ ఈస్ నో అసెస్మెంట్ అట్ ఆల్ అబౌట్ ద హ్యాబిటాట్. అండ్ all life, including us, we need a habitat to survive, sustain. So this habitat loss is the topmost reason for depletion in the biodiversity. Even I keep commenting on the bird lovers. Bird lovers go there, take a photograph of birds, and they describe, they write the color and all those things, but none of them have an idea of where is the habitat of that beautiful bird. సో మనం అక్కడనే డ్యూటీ ఉంది అని అనుకుంటాం, కానీ హ్యాబిటాట్ అది అట్లా అక్కడ ఎట్లా ఉంటుంది దాని మీద అసెస్మెంట్ లేదు, నాలెడ్జ్ కూడా లేదు. ఓవర్ ఎక్స్‌ప్లాయిటేషన్, ఐ థింక్ దిస్ ఈజ్ అగైన్ a major cause. We continuously over exploit the biodiversity. So it could be any tree, or it could be any crop, or it could be any domesticated animal. If you look at the milk which we take from buffalo or cows, in the past 30 years, they started bringing hybrid to increase the milk production. And then they did not stop at that. Then they increased the udder size of the cow. And it did not stop there. They started giving injections, hormonal injections so that the cow can give more milk. So these efforts are still continuing. The direction of modern economy is over exploitation of the same resource continuously. I think that's another problem where diversity is being lost. Climate change, of course, జలవాయు పరివర్తన, హిందీలో జలవాయు పరివర్తన అంటాము, తెలుగులో వాతావరణ మార్పు అంటాము. కానీ వాతావరణ మార్పు వేడెక్కుతున్న కొద్ది, ఉష్ణోగ్రత వేడెక్కుతున్న కొద్ది చాలా చిన్న సున్నితమైన జీవాలన్నీ కూడా మనలేని పరిస్థితిలో ఉన్నాయి. మనమే ఇప్పుడు ఈ వేడికి తట్టుకోలేక ఏసీలో కూర్చుంటున్నాం. లాస్ట్ 2 yearsలోనే 1.5 degrees దాటి 2 degreesకి చేరుతున్న పరిస్థితుల్లో ఎన్ని రకాల జీవాలు బతకగలుగుతాయి, ఎన్ని చచ్చిపోయినాయి, హౌ మెనీ స్పీషీస్ ఆర్ లాస్ట్ బికాస్ ఆఫ్ ది హీట్, బికాస్ ఆఫ్ ది వార్మ్, అండ్ బికాస్ ఆఫ్ ది కంటిన్యూస్ చేంజ్ ఇన్ ద క్లైమేట్. I think that is again and again a question which we have to keep asking ourselves. Pollution is another major problem. Pollution అంటే రెండు రకాలు. ఒకటేమో whatever contaminants which are polluting the biodiversity, or the other kind is some monoculture increasing on its own. సో ఇప్పుడు మనం చూస్తున్నాము కొన్ని స్పీషీస్ మన అర్బన్ ఏరియాస్లో పావురాలు, గ్రే కలర్ పావురాలు ఎందుకు పెరుగుతున్నాయి, కాకులు పిచ్చుకలు ఎందుకు లేవు. సో వీ స్టార్టెడ్ నేమింగ్ దెమ్ యాజ్ పెట్స్. ఓన్లీ సర్టన్ స్పీషీస్ గ్రో అట్ ద కాస్ట్ ఆఫ్ అదర్ స్పీషీస్ గ్రో. ఇదొక రకమైన పొల్యూషన్ అవుతుంది. But apart from that, industrial pollution, waste pollution, I think all those are impacting the wildlife and non-human life. Invasive species, of course, now this has become a major problem, and now there is a separate stream of negotiations which have been opened as part of a convention on biodiversity. ఒక ఎగ్జాంపుల్ ఏంటంటే కొలంబియాలో పాబ్లో ఎస్కోబార్ అనే డ్రగ్ స్మగ్లర్, ఆయన 90sలో ఆయనకి చోటు పుట్టి ఒక హిప్పో, 2 హిప్పోలను ఆఫ్రికా నుంచి తీసుకొచ్చారు. హిప్పోస్ ఆర్ బేసికలీ ఆఫ్రికన్ కాంటినెంట్లో దొరుకుతాయి, లాటిన్ అమెరికాలో లేవు. ఈయన 2 తీసుకొచ్చి అక్కడ పెడితే ఆయన he was killed, and no one was taking care of that. And today there are 1600 hippos in Colombia, and there is no natural predator to control its population. Similarly, Miami, Florida, Burmese python, అది ఎక్కడ ఎవరో తీసుకొచ్చారు. Now that Burmese python is spreading like anything in Florida. ఇండియాలో మనం చూసినాము లాంటనా, కాంగ్రెస్ గ్రాస్, these are all they came from outside. So invasive species are becoming a మేజర్ ప్రాబ్లం. తెలంగాణలో గత 10 ఏళ్లలో చెరువుల్లో చేప పిల్లలని ఎక్కడెక్కడి నుంచో కొనుక్కొచ్చి వేసారు. అది ఏ చేప పిల్ల ఏం తెలియదు. అందులో కొన్ని డేంజరస్ స్పీషీస్ వచ్చినాయని తెలంగాణ బయోడైవర్సిటీ బోర్డు గుర్తించిన ఊరు కూడా ఉన్నాయి. సో ఫిష్ కానీ ఎవ్రీథింగ్, ఎవ్రీ స్పీషీస్ వీఆర్ బ్రింగింగ్ సమ్ అదర్ స్పీషీస్ అండ్ షోప్ కొరకు, అందం కొరకు ఏదో తెచ్చుకుంటున్నాం కానీ వీఆర్ రీప్లేసింగ్ దట్ ఎకోసిస్టమ్ అండ్ కాజింగ్ ప్రాబ్లమ్ విత్ దట్. నెక్స్ట్ ప్లీజ్. Now this is another major problem which pesticides used in agriculture, in public health. I think that has become a major problem in wiping out biodiversity, especially insect population. So ipudu Germany lo they call insect apocalypse, ante insects lene levu akkada kanpadtalevu. మనం ఒకప్పుడు వర్షం పడితే సడన్గా చిన్న రెక్కల పురుగులు వచ్చేవి, వేలలో రెక్కల పురుగులు. ఈరోజు వర్షం పడితే ఏ పురుగు రాదు. అయినా ఏదన్నా పాము వస్తే అది పెద్దగా రాస్తారు, పాములు వస్తున్నాయి, తేళ్ళు వస్తున్నాయి. అవి దాని సమస్య వేరు అనుకోండి. బట్ బేసికలీ we are spraying pesticides across the country. Every year 2,55,000 tons of pesticides are being used in India, and each gram of that 2,55,000 tons can kill any species. Each gram అంటే టన్నులో మనము ఉపయోగిస్తున్నాం, అందులో 1 గ్రామ్ కూడా పాయిజన్. డోస్ ఇస్ పాయిజన్ అంటారు, బట్ స్టిల్ each gram is a poison. It could be acute poisoning or chronic poisoning, and we are killing. Ultimately, we want to eliminate all other species using pesticides, but they are not working. The simplest example is mosquitoes. Mosquitoes ni 1950 నుంచి వాడుతున్నాం. DDT దగ్గర నుంచి ఇప్పుడు మలాథియాన్, నియోనికోటినైడ్ వాడుతున్నాం. మస్కిటోస్ చచ్చిపోయినాయి. Have we been able to eliminate mosquitoes? And now they are talking of genetically modified mosquitoes. Sterilization. అంటే వీరిలో కుక్కలకి ఎట్లయితే స్టెరిలైజ్ చేస్తే పాపులేషన్ కంట్రోల్ అవుతుందో, they are saying we are releasing modified male mosquitoes to sterilize females so that female mosquito population does not increase. But what is the impact of those modified mosquitoes on the nature అనేది is still not considered. So there are a lot of issues, pesticide, antibiotics we are giving to all animals, cattle, livestock, poultry, and that is again changing their genetic structure, and the essential nutrient availability kuda taggutundi vaati valla. And we are just taking those antibiotics because we are eating their meat or whatever products which are coming from them. So antibiotic usage not only on ourselves directly as medicines, but on animals, animal world is increased, and that is again causing bacteria loss, virus, changing the virus populations. So ఇవన్నీ కూడా మార్పులు వస్తున్నాయి. Antibiotic resistant bacteria are developing, and they have found the most dangerous bacteria in river Musi in Hyderabad. And when you read those scientific paper, you will be shocked and scared what is going to happen, because those bacteria can cause epidemics easily. ఇప్పటివరకు మీకు ఎందుకు కాలేదని ఆశ్చర్యపోతారు, కానీ అది అంత డేంజరస్ యాంటీబయాటిక్ రెసిస్టెంట్ బ్యాక్టీరియా. అంటే మనం మందులు వేసుకున్నా పని చేయని బ్యాక్టీరియా ఉన్నాయి. సో ఈ రెసిస్టెన్స్, పెస్టిసైడ్కి రెసిస్టెన్స్, యాంటీబయాటిక్ రెసిస్టెన్స్ డెవలప్ అవుతుంది, బట్ నాట్ అక్రాస్ ఆల్ స్పీషీస్, ఓన్లీ సర్టన్ స్పీషీస్. అది ఇంకా డేంజరస్ ప్రాబ్లం. మనకు డిఫరెంట్ స్పీషీస్ ఇప్పుడు ఆస్ట్రేలియాలో లాస్ట్ ఐ థింక్ 2 years బ్యాక్ సడన్లీ దెర్ వాజ్ విజిలెన్స్ అండ్ మన ఎలుకలు ఎక్కడ చూసినా ఎలుకలు, వాళ్ళు తీస్తే ఎలుకలు ఎలుకలని చంపడానికి వాళ్ళు ఎప్పుడో ఎలిమినేషన్ అయిపోయింది అనుకున్నారు. దాని కొరకు పెస్టిసైడ్ ఇండియా నుంచి ఇంపోర్ట్ చేసుకొని ఎలుకలను చంపాము. ఫైర్ యాంట్స్ ఆర్ ఇంక్రీజింగ్ ఇన్ ఆస్ట్రేలియా. సో ఇక్కడ ఐ థింక్ ఈచ్ ద వే we are killing certain species, and certain species are growing on their own because of warm atmosphere, and that is again causing problems for us as humans. Chala ఉన్నాయి plastics, physical elimination. We have eliminated so many species, bird species, which help us in production, especially honeybees. Honeybees across the world, butterflies, dragonflies, these are all helping in pollination, but their population is coming down. Future lo manaki aa puppodini itu nunchi atu తీసుకెళ్ళి అదేదో పాలినేషన్ చేసే ప్రక్రియ ఆగిపోతే మనం చేతులతో చేసుకొని మాన్యువల్గా చేయాల్సిన పరిస్థితి వస్తుంది. అయితే దానికి సొల్యూషన్ చెప్తున్నారు. ఎవరు చెప్తున్నారు? బిల్ గేట్స్ అనే మహాశయుడు టెక్నాలజీ ఉంది. ఏం టెక్నాలజీ? మీరు నేచర్ ఇవ్వకుంటే, పాలినేషన్ ఇవ్వకుంటే దే కెన్ మల్టిప్లై ఇన్ ద ల్యాబ్. సెల్ మల్టిప్లికేషన్ చేసి they want to produce meat, they want to produce milk, they want to produce something else. So people are saying this is the solution. We need to decide, is that the solution? Is it sustainable? And what are the implications of that on our health and sustainability? Roads అంటే మనం ఎక్కడ పడితే రోడ్ కావాలంటాం. Roads are destroying plant vegetation fundamentally, and because of that habitat loss, దాంతోటి lot of other species are being lost. Next please. So there are international negotiations which are going on, and I'll briefly touch upon them, and basically what we need to do in India, what is the gap I mentioned here close, because there are scholars who can educate us more on biodiversity. So this convention on biodiversity exactly started at Earth Summit in 1992, where UNFCCC framework was established. But UNFCCC COP had 29 meetings so far. The 29th is happening on November 11 to 22 in Baku. But biodiversity is now happening. COP16 is opening on Monday, 21st October to November 2nd. So there is a COP16 on Convention on Biodiversity is happening at Cali in Colombia. So right now, this conference has been organized in tune with that international conference which is happening. So I think it should it should be interesting for us to know what is the India position at that international convention which is happening, and what is that we are trying to achieve through that convention. I leave that to you. Maybe in the afternoon we will have some discussion. But then the second issue, I think, which is part of the convention on biodiversity, is Cartagena Protocol on biosafety. Now, biosafety is now a major concern because now a lot of genetically modified research is happening, gene-edited technologies. I think teachers should know synthetic biology is being promoted as if that's a solution for many of the problems. So synthetic biology, gene-edited technologies, CRISPR technology, so all these are a concern for this biosafety. because is biosafety science developed enough? Across the world it is not developed enough. People still don't know when you are releasing a gene modified salmon in a sea, in the ocean, Atlantic Ocean, it accidentally they released genetically modified salmon, which is a very famous dish. We don't know what's happening because of that. And mosquitoes were already released in Miami, Florida. What happens once they start, that genetic changes which are happening, what happens with that, we don't know. In fact, within the cell, the DNA structure, this CRISPR technology, they knock out one protein and they introduce another protein. So sometimes they encountered that cell corrects itself. So the protein which was knocked out was recreated by the cell. These are not known to the scientists. So cell can, the DNA can behave in different ways. Uncertain, there is a lot of uncertainty. So these people have now curtailed that behavior, cell behavior, where it brings back the protein which was removed artificially by the scientists. So there are, when you go deep into that CRISPR technology, we will be scared to know what is happening. So when it expresses in the form of bio-safety outside, we have experienced Bt cotton in India. Bt cotton was introduced by Bacillus thuringiensis technology. This is a small bacteria found in soil, and that bacteria is toxic. So there are two genes were introduced in the cotton seed, and they said this will express itself in the bowl, cotton bowl, when the kaya vastadi kada, kayalo ఈ విషం వస్తుంది, పురుగు దాన్ని తింటే చచ్చిపోతుంది, అట్లా పెస్టిసైడ్ అవాయిడ్ చేస్తామని చెప్పారు. కానీ ఆ ఎక్స్ప్రెషన్ ఆఫ్ దట్ టాక్సిసిటీ it did not come always in the bowl. It entered the roots, it entered the leaves, it entered the stem, and sometimes it did not enter the bowl itself. So nature reacts on its own, but that's how cell is there. Cell has been is a life on its own, and we are tinkering with that. And what happens when you are tinkering? The consequences, the unintended consequences, are still not known. Yet people want to continue with this gene-edited technologies. చైనాలో ఒక డాక్టర్ హ్యూమన్ బేబీని ప్రొడ్యూస్ చేసిందని ఎడిటెడ్ టెక్నాలజీతో. హీ వాజ్ పుట్ బిహైండ్ బార్స్, బట్ రీసెంట్లీ వాజ్ రిలీజ్. డిజైనర్ బేబీస్. సో దే విల్ డిజైన్ ఎ బేబీ exactly the way we want, with the eyes, with all those things. That's what they are thinking they can do. Playing God, playing nature, I think is one stream which has gone to extremes in the synthetic biology and life sciences stream. So there the people are talking of precautionary approach, and precautionary approach talks about biosafety. That's a magic word which you keep thinking, and wherever you read biosafety, you should think that this is about prevention. It is about doing more research, being more sure about what we are doing, and decreasing the uncertainties or unintended consequences behind the products which are being brought about it. The latest, as I mentioned, 𝗏𝗏𝗃𝗏 Global Biodiversity Framework. So all these four are under discussion in Colombia from 21st October to November 2nd. But then the major issue for us as India, which is dependent on agriculture, our food security is dependent on the food which comes from agriculture. there the manipulation or the contamination of the genetic resources, plant genetic resources, I think it's still a concern. India has so far not approved any patent on any nature itself. So seed, we are not given patent. We don't approve any patent on nature. Some of you might remember 20 years back, America has given patent on neem products, turmeric. They said as if they have discovered. But we know turmeric we have been using for centuries. Neem itself is a natural pesticide. So those patents which are given there, we have never accepted. India never accepts all those nature-based, nature-related patents. But then it has changed recently. In May 2024, World Intellectual Property Organization has brought about intellectual property, genetic resources, and associated traditional knowledge. And they now, all these natural genetic resources have been mapped. They have been digitized. So they call digital sequence information, DSI. And this WIPO treaty has, what the treaty says is digital sequence information. Until now, if you are doing research on genetic resources, you should take prior permission. You cannot do independently. And then the product which comes out of that research and that efforts, or whatever, it is not approved as a patent in India. As I mentioned, BT cotton was not approved as a patent. It was introduced but not as a patent. So the point is, they have overcome that. Now they have digitized, at least I think 255 million digital sequence information database is available internationally. So they have digitized a lot of this DNA structures of different species, including human beings. Now they are saying that is the path for science, but we should know that science is controlled by business. Business decides what science has to be done. And the biotechnology in health, in animal health, and in human health, and also agriculture, all those products are decided by the business, profits, multinational companies. India, unfortunately, in May 2024, has signed this treaty which accepts the theft of Indian genetic resources in the form of digital sequence information. And that's a concern, because now as part of CBD, they are going to discuss more on how to operationalize DSI, access and benefit sharing. Basically, access and benefit sharing. That means the nature which was accessible for all the people, in the name of that, only multinationals are going to access that, and they are going to do research. They'll come up with products, they'll have patents, and then they'll start doing marketing, making profits out of it. So రేపు పొద్దున మనకు దాని వలన వచ్చే సమస్యలు అనేకం ఉన్నాయి. అందులో ఒక ఉదాహరణ బీటీ కాటన్ చెప్పిన కదా, బీటీ కాటన్ వలన అది రైతులకు ఉపయోగపడకపోగా ఆత్మహత్యలు పెరిగినాయి. యావరేజ్ కాటన్ ఫార్మర్స్ ఇన్కమ్ has gone down from 6,732 rupees per year to less than 4,000 rupees. And they are now spending more on pesticides than before BT cotton has come. They have to keep buying seeds every year from the multinational corporation. Seed cost, which was 0% or 500 rupees per year per acre, has gone up to 3,000, 4,000 rupees, sometimes 30% of the cost of production. And in US, where the at least 10, 15 genetically modified crops are grown, their small farmers cannot buy, and in fact they face legal cases from the Monsanto Bayer company for compensation. They are filing cases on farmers saying farmers have committed theft of their technology. You have this farm by organic farmer in Canada. It happened, and then there was a farmer who bought a Monsanto canola, GM canola, and naturally there was contamination of this organic farmer. Instead of compensating him for the compensation, he was dragged to the court, and Monsanto extracted compensation from the farmer. So technology patents are going to rule our genetic resources. This is one example I am giving. There are several cases which are happening. We are fighting those golden rice in Philippines. So all these are part of genetic resources, natural resources, which should be available for everyone, not as a patent but as a part of the right. So the access and benefit sharing negotiations which are happening, they are continuously happening in the direction where how multinational companies can increase their access, how they will have to do benefit sharing. So you might know the famous case of 𝗏𝗏𝗃𝗃 case in Jharkhand. 𝗏𝗏𝗃𝗃 foods, they were fined by the court, Jharkhand High Court, because they were taking 𝗕𝗏𝗃𝗃 from Jharkhand forest and they are selling products, but they did not share the profits from those products with the tribals who have been protecting those natural resources. So they fined them, and ultimately government decided to change the law. They did not increase the benefit sharing for the local people who have been protecting these knowledge resources, but they changed the law. So now companies need not be burdened with the benefit sharing. So we are increasingly moving towards patenting of genetic resources through gene-edited technologies and all those things. So that's a major concern. Next please. I think India has recently submitted National Biodiversity Strategies and Action Plans. They are, every time they have to submit, each country is asked to submit. We submitted recent 7th report. We did not get access to that, but I think whatever has been reported in the news is causing a concern, because again and again we are moving towards patenting of natural resources. Next please. So there are a lot of policy gaps, between forest policy with agriculture. FAO talks about agroecology, but then in India, Forest Department does not know that word at all. And Agriculture Department does not know the significance of a biodiversity area within the region of agriculture fields, because they can reduce pesticide or pest attacks. So like why elephants which stay in the forest are now called pests? Why wild hogs which stay in the forest, they have become pests? The interaction between forest and agriculture is impacting their habitat, they are impacting their food, it is impacting their water. So Forest Department and Agriculture Department never sit together and discuss what we can do about it. So these are, there are gaps in that. So we need a multi-sector coordination, we need capacity building, we need benefit sharing, because for several years, India has been preserving 2 lakh plus paddy varieties. These are traditional varieties which are rich in nutrients, which are rich in, characteristics to bring up minerals from the soil, or which can give us more nutrients than the hybrid or seeds. That benefit sharing has to be discussed. Participatory decision making, that is what is required. Today, 2 months back, Supreme Court has given a judgment on a case which we filed against GM crops in India in 2006. And Supreme Court just clearly said government should conduct public consultations and bring out a policy about biosafety and on GM crops, public consultations. But without consultation, Government of India is now trying to bring GM mustard. And that's another big story. Next please. So you are already next. Okay. So we need all these strategies immediately in terms of biodiversity enhancement and promotion. Next please. Lot of policies need change. They require input from biodiversity. Land use policy, we say we need 33% of forest cover, and it is less than 15%. But why 33%? Why not 40%, 60%? So the problem is we don't have a land use policy, and we don't recognize ecosystem at all in whatever land use policies which are being brought. So ecosystem, like water bodies, every city has master plans. In a master plan, they see a land as just a survey number or extent, 10 acres, 100 acres, 1,50,000 acres. But each land is an ecosystem. It could be a grassland, it could be a shrubland, it could be a forest land. But in the master plan, they don't recognize that at all. Similarly, biosafety policy is required. Living modified organisms, we need to understand the consequences of that genetic modification. Agriculture policy, we have Seed Act which was brought in 1968, and so far they have not amended it. We have been trying to get a new seed policy, but so far we don't get it. Similarly, soil is a rich source of and a major basis for biodiversity, but we don't have soil policy. So there are many aspects where we require for policies. So when we are talking of biodiversity, it is not just about access and benefit sharing, it is also about all this, how land use has to be changed, how land use has to be conserved. So even water, there is a national water policy, draft water policy, which does not, there is no word called aquatic life in water policy. Can you imagine? So they don't know. Why water? Water is not just for us, it has to be for all the species. So there are many things which are there. I think I have taken a lot of time. Sorry, I will stop here. We'll again discuss through the sessions some of these aspects which I just presented. Thank you.